Hello and welcome to the Training for Trainers on the Cultural Expertise Trainers Network. In this session, we delve into a comprehensive exploration of the key topics that constitute the base of all CULTEXP training modules. The session is structured into 4 sections. Section 1: Definition and Typology of Cultural Expertise. In this initial section, we will elucidate 2 foundational definitions crucial to the legal process. We will also elucidate how cultural expertise fits into the disciplinary landscape and provide an overview of cultural expertise before cultural expertise, otherwise the types of cultural expertise preceding its theoretical framework. Section 2: Cultural Expertise, Fundamental Freedoms and Human Rights. The second part of our session will illuminate the interplay between cultural expertise, fundamental freedoms, and human rights. We will emphasize the practical contributions cultural expertise can make in assessing evidence in this context. Section 3: Deontology and Ethics of Cultural Expertise. Our third section will address the ethical dimensions of cultural expertise, offering guidelines on the roles of experts within the legal process. We will also explore the value of cultural expertise in relation to the reports like the country of origin information and outline common questions posed to experts. Section 4: Impact of Cultural Expertise. In the final section, we will examine the various types and factors that influence the impact of cultural expertise. CULTEXP modules are rooted in the understanding that not all learners possess prior knowledge of this concept. Therefore, CULTEXP trainers provide an introductory overview on cultural expertise that prioritizes relevance and connection to the specific field of cultural expertise which is or are relevant for the course, ensuring that learners can effectively apply cultural expertise principles in their service to the course. The definitions of cultural expertise encompass several essential components. Firstly, cultural expertise involves possessing specialized knowledge that is specifically intended for the court. Experts are appointed when the subject matter falls outside the court's ordinary experience and knowledge. Their role primarily revolves around assisting decision-making authorities, particularly in the critical phase of evaluating evidence. In certain unique contexts, some experts may play a role in identifying evidence, and this necessitates even more careful positioning within the legal process. However, usually, experts do not engage in fact-finding, legal argumentation, and do not participate directly or indirectly in the decision-making process. Both definitions of cultural expertise emphasize the paramount importance of prioritizing the voices of those benefiting from cultural expertise. The key distinction between these definitions lies in how the voices of cultural expertise are understood and integrated. In the general concept of cultural expertise, the voices of beneficiaries can be mediated by the state, similar to how it applies to all citizens. In contrast, in the case of indigenous expertise, the emphasis is placed on indigenous voices as an expression of self-determination. This directly relates to the type of evidence that can be incorporated into the international legal framework, particularly concerning indigenous peoples. It aligns with principles of self-government and the right to free, prior, and informed consent. The right to self-government was reaffirmed by the 1993 Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which also encompasses the right to self-determination and the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Self-determination, a well-established principle of international law, assert that people have the right to determine their social, economic, cultural, and political systems. The principle of consent stipulates that indigenous people should be informed about, consulted on, and provide their consent for any initiatives that affect their lives. The theoretical framework of cultural expertise rearticulates the concept of culture from a pragmatic perspective for its use in court. This perspective considers power dynamics alongside other factors such as education, gender, financial status, age, class, and perceived or assigned or self-allocated racial construction as contributing factors that help explain practices and behaviors within social groups. It is important to stress that this framework does not establish a direct causal link with legal outcomes. Instead, cultural expertise aims to address the historical neglect of power relation and racialization that were undermined also in previous approaches that relied on culture such as multiculturalism and interculturalism. These previous approaches sometimes unintentionally perpetuated colonial legacies. The colonial approaches have played a crucial role in informing cultural expertise by challenging Euro-American centered knowledge structures that underpin discrimination against marginalized social groups. They have influenced the development of cultural expertise by advocating for explicit measures of inclusion, rectification of inequalities, and a strong emphasis on prioritizing the voices of those benefiting from cultural expertise in the pursuit of their rights. For cultural expertise to effectively support the claims of indigenous peoples and social minorities, it must incorporate a robust ethical component. As a result, cultural expertise includes a significant element of scrutiny to ensure that the colonial criticism contribute constructively to strengthening the commitment to cultural diversity and equity. CULTEXP trainers master this comprehensive understanding of cultural expertise to provide legal professionals and cultural experts with the knowledge and tools they need to appoint an expert or to serve as an expert in court. CULTEXP training modules emphasize the critical components of cultural expertise, such as its specialized knowledge tailored for the court and the pivotal role it plays in assisting decision-making authorities during the evaluation of evidence. Trainers also underscore the importance of prioritizing the voices of those benefiting from cultural expertise, clarifying the distinction between general cultural expertise and indigenous expertise. Furthermore, CULTEXP trainers stress the significance of international legal frameworks like the 1993 Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, emphasizing the principles of self-government, self-determination, and free, prior, and informed consent as central tenets of cultural expertise in indigenous contexts. Theoretical frameworks underpinning culture may also be mentioned, particularly the perspectives that considers power dynamics, education, gender, financial status, age, class, and assigned or self-assigned or perceived identities as influential factors in understanding social group practices and behaviors. By highlighting the impact of the colonial approaches and the imperative of incorporating ethics into cultural expertise, trainers prepare professionals to apply this principle effectively, promoting cultural diversity and equity while countering historical power imbalances. Cultural expertise as theoretical framework began with a focus on the role of anthropologists as expert witnesses. However, as our data collection expanded, we came to appreciate the diverse applications of socio-anthro-legal knowledge across various branches of social sciences. On one side, we encountered interdisciplinary concepts that, while valuable, were not as comprehensive as the broader notion of cultural expertise. On the other side, there were specialized instruments falling under the cultural expertise umbrella but rooted in specific disciplines. Our definition seeks to encompass and bridge the gap between these disciplinary and interdisciplinary variations, each with its unique characteristics. The inclusion of culture in our definition serves a critical purpose. It identifies and distinguishes the specialized knowledge provided by social scientists and underscores its comprehensive nature. This approach not only recognizes the ethical and qualitative aspect of the service provided by cultural expertise, but also addresses the challenges posed by the fragmentation of social scientist engagement with the legal field. In a sense, cultural expertise covers a wide terrain that is both interdisciplinary and cross-sectoral. It is important to emphasize that the ethical framework of cultural expertise is a cornerstone. It places a strong emphasis on prioritizing the voices of those who benefit from cultural expertise and firmly opposes any form of cultural determinism. The CULTEXP trademark, representing a mark of quality in the domain of professional cultural expertise, leverages interdisciplinarity as a strength, positioning it as an added value to traditionally academic-bound knowledge. CULTEXP trainers not only offer a comprehensive approach to cultural expertise, but also champion the advantages of interdisciplinary collaboration, elevating the quality and impact of this specialized service. CULTEXP trainers also highlight that the interdisciplinary nature of cultural expertise, rooted in the actual experiences of experts across various social sciences disciplines, tends to be more readily accepted in court. This acceptance stems from the practical and first-hand insight that interdisciplinary experts bring to the legal process, further enhancing the credibility and effectiveness of cultural expertise in diverse legal contexts. Cultural expertise has evolved from a rich but fragmented landscape of practices and tools that we refer to as cultural expertise before cultural expertise. These precursor practices encompass a wide range of rules and responsibilities, from advising in policy making to serving as expert witnesses in legal cases involving indigenous communities and diasporic groups affected by migration. Additionally, these early practices included the engagement of anthropologists who recognized the interdependence and indivisibility of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. Some key examples of cultural expertise before cultural expertise include ethnopsychiatry, an early decolonial approach that examined the intersection of culture and mental health, recognizing the importance of cultural factors in understanding psychological well-being. Cultural competence, a framework that aimed to enhance professionals' ability to work effectively with individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds. Cultural mediation, a practice developed initially in the context of the alternative dispute resolution movement in the United States, emphasizing the need for flexibility and cultural sensitivity in resolving conflicts. Culturally oriented crimes and cultural defense. This concept emerged in response to perceived conflicts between majority and minority groups in Europe and the Americas. Culturally motivated crimes were identified as actions committed by minorities based on the perception that they were permissible or even obligatory within their cultural context. Cultural defense involved using cultural arguments to mitigate sentences in criminal cases, initially focusing on First Nation and later extending to all social minorities. Over time, these early practices evolved and adapted to changing context. For example, cultural mediation and cultural competence transformed into intercultural mediation and intercultural competence in the 1990s, reflecting a broader recognition of the complexities of cultural interactions in a globalized world. These tools often involve specialists in communication, psychology, native language speakers, translators, and social workers, facilitating effective communication during legal proceedings and post-judgment phases. Cultural competence, in particular, encompasses a range of cognitive, affective, behavioral, and linguistic skills aimed at improving communication in multicultural settings. CULTEXP training modules thoroughly delineate the theoretical framework of cultural expertise, emphasizing its role as a self-contained and tailored service, characterized by independence and specificity in each unique case. Experts, whether in-house or external, are expected to maintain their independence. However, it is important to be aware that the assessment of expert independence varies across different legal systems. In common law system, expert independence typically means that professionals outside the legal and law enforcement fields are involved. In contrast, civil law systems often associate independence with the expert affiliation with state entities. This variation underscores the importance of understanding cultural expertise within the specific legal framework in which it operates. Cultural expertise plays a vital role in upholding and respecting fundamental freedoms and human rights, including freedom of speech, worship, freedom from want, slavery and torture, as well as the right to opinion and expression. These freedoms are closely intertwined with rights that need protection, such as the right to life and liberty, the right to non-refoulement, the right to cultural identity, and the right to belong. For the courts, the challenge lies in adequately assessing the evidence in cases heavily influenced by culture, viewed from a broad perspective. There exist several definitions of culture within the social sciences, and comprehensive training in cultural expertise should address the key debates on culture relevant to the legal profession. What is essential to understand is that the law often requires decision to be made only after careful consideration of recent contextual information. Hence, the role of the cultural expert is to provide this contextual information to the court. For instance, it is not sufficient to establish the mere existence of laws protecting witnesses or women or ensuring fair trials. Rather, it is crucial to have insight into how these laws are actually implemented on the ground. In cases related to freedom of speech, the court must determine whether a specific speech is offensive within a particular context. Similarly, in cases of violence against specific social groups, it is important to grasp how behavior is defined as violence, which can vary based on the cultural context. Furthermore, access to independent and up-to-date information about the implementation of these laws and criteria for identifying individuals as belonging to certain social group deserving protection is crucial. Many of these cases are sensitive because the rights of some individuals or social groups may be perceived as conflicting with the rights of others. However, courts are typically well equipped to navigate these complexities and balance competing rights. Cultural expertise is pivotal in assessing evidence, such as determining an individual's affiliation with a persecuted or vulnerable social group, evaluating the degree to which laws are implemented in a certain context, and understanding how the context influences interpretation and implementation. In addition to the general types of cultural expertise, it's important highlighting two distinct categories of cases and cultural expertise. First, those in which the law provides special rights for specific social groups, like indigenous people or linguistic minorities, such as, for example, the right to self-government for First Nations. Second, cases in which belonging to a particular group may lead to legal responsibility, such as terrorism, organized crime, and crimes against humanity. In both these instances, cultural expertise can be crucial, but it is essential to take special precautions and ethical measures to ensure the independence of expert, the role of the voice in cultural expertise, and the court's capacity to effectively utilize their expertise. CULTEXP trainers explain that cultural expertise serves as a linchpin in assessing evidence and navigating complex legal cases in which the court does require special knowledge, ensuring that fundamental freedoms and human rights are upheld while addressing the nuances of cultural context and identities, be it perceived and or assigned, to allow the court to make informed consideration according to relevant laws. Cultural experts, often anthropologists, adhere to the fundamental principle of do not harm, a principle affirmed by nearly all anthropological associations. Maintaining independence is a common concern in the selection of these experts. As part of the legal procedure, courts may question the credibility of cultural experts due to their perceived closeness to the subject of their research, who become the litigants, applicants, or accused parties in legal proceedings. It is essential to emphasize that cultural experts owe their primary duty to the court, regardless of the source of their appointment or compensation. This means that they are neutral and do not take sides. Experts can be disqualified not only if they are seen as biased, but also if they are seen as ideologically advocating for the rights of specific social groups. This does not mean that cultural experts should perpetuate historical inequalities. On the contrary, the fight against structural imbalance of power is the core of the ethics and deontology of cultural experts. While more experienced experts may argue that courts are not appropriate platform for anthropological advocacy, engaged anthropology and critical scholarship on expert witnessing argue that anthropologists have a responsibility to contribute to addressing social inequalities, even within the legal process. The theoretical framework for cultural expertise offers a third option. Cultural experts adopt a position of procedural neutrality based on independence and reliability to secure their authority to disagree, if relevant, with the decision-making authority. CULTEXP training modules stress on cultural expertise as underpinned by a robust set of ethical guidelines. In addition to the do not harm principle, these guidelines advocate for the procedural neutrality of cultural experts. They also reject cultural determinism and promote the principle of critical affirmation. Procedural neutrality and critical affirmation in cultural expertise draw inspiration from education studies and refer to the stance of social scientists acting as experts. They abstain from advocacy in court but critically affirm their independence within the legal process. Whenever necessary, cultural experts are ready and willing to respectfully disagree with the court. This framework allows cultural experts to maintain their professional and ethical commitment while contributing valuable insight for more inclusive legal proceedings. Courts often grapple with the question of whether country of origin information, COI, alone suffices to make informed decisions in legal proceedings. COI serve a vital role by gathering pertinent data to facilitate accurate and equitable determination in asylum and migration cases, or to support policy formulations. These reports are valued for their accessibility, written format, and official endorsement, which instill confidence in the courts regarding their reliability. However, cultural expertise brings distinct advantages. It offers a first-hand, in-depth, and updated perspective that is often more independent than COI. Courts experienced in appointing experts recognize that while COI are valuable, it cannot fully replace the level of detail of the cultural expertise provided by experts. This depth of expertise is crucial in highlighting potential risks that are directly relevant to the case at hand. Therefore, the prevailing approach in many cases involves a combination of both COI and cultural expertise. This dual approach harnesses the strengths of both sources. COI offers a broad official foundation of information, while cultural expertise improves it with nuanced, context-specific insights. This combined approach ensures that courts have access to the most comprehensive and well-informed assessment, thereby enhancing the quality and fairness of their decisions. By highlighting the advantages of both COI and cultural expertise, CULTEXP training modules help professionals to understand how to effectively integrate these resources for more informed and equitable legal judgment. Trainers emphasize the importance of leveraging the COI's official foundation of information alongside cultural expertise nuanced and independent insight, ultimately enhancing the quality and fairness of decision in legal proceedings. In many cases where experts are appointed, they come from backgrounds outside the legal professions and may not be well versed in legal matters. Conversely, the legal professionals who appoint these experts often lack familiarity with the expert's specific disciplinary background. This interdisciplinary collaboration highlights the importance of formulating questions to experts with precision, considering the role and significance of cultural expertise in the process. The following map outlines the types of questions that can be posed to experts. It aims to provide a sense of the level of detail and the breadth of the cultural expertise field. This map is not intended to be prescriptive, but rather to illustrate the themes and level of detail that questions to experts may encompass. Belonging to a social group. Questions regarding an individual's affiliation, self-identification, and perceived belonging with a particular social group are critical. This involves both self-identification and the need for external evidence. Such inquiries are relevant in cases of persecution, discrimination based on social group membership, and also in cases involving crimes like organized crime, terrorism, and crimes against humanity. Special attention is required in these cases to ensure expert independence and proper utilization of their assessment by the courts. Risk assessment. Evaluating risks to and from individuals, as well as risks from environmental hazards, is often crucial in various legal contexts, including migration, family law, criminal law, and civil responsibility cases. Specific nuances of risk, such as long-term risks emerging after a minor reaches adulthood or well after a family dispute, need consideration. Specific legal concept. Certain legal concepts, such as establishing the civil status of migrants in the absence of supporting documents for marriage, divorce, or family composition, can be pivotal. Similarly, the understanding of enterprise, which may be linked to family or lineage in some legal tradition, is essential. Additionally, the assessment of non-traceable payments and the notion of fraud can be significant in legal proceedings. State and no-state protection. The evaluation of state and no-state protection often centers on access to justice, healthcare, and education. Assessments are typically based on existing legislation, but should always be complemented with first-hand data regarding the actual implementation of these laws for specific groups. Internal relocation. In cases involving individuals at risk returning to their country of origin, experts assess the risk of being tracked down and the ability to access basic services, especially when individuals need to maintain a low profile. Foreign laws. Similar considerations apply when dealing with the existence and implementation of foreign laws, especially in cases related to the protection of minority or specific categories like witnesses, children, and women. This includes assessing laws that may discriminate against minorities, violate human rights, or hinder the fair trial process. Fair trial. Question on what are the factors that may impact the fair trial of the applicant or litigant to ensure access to justice. CULTEXP trainers empower the legal professionals and cultural experts with the skills to navigate the unique challenges posed by interdisciplinary collaboration. This ensures that questions posed to experts encompass the breadth of the cultural expertise field, promoting fairness and justice while upholding the principles of human rights. In our training, we emphasize that experts, including cultural experts, are not expected to provide legal interpretation to the court, but may be asked about foreign laws and their practical implementation and social reception. It's crucial for experts to distinguish at all times between their personal opinion and their expert opinions. Our comprehensive analysis of qualitative and quantitative data strongly suggests that cultural expertise carries significant societal benefits on a broader scale. By promoting social inclusion, cultural expertise encourages a legal system that is not only just but also reflective of the diversity of contemporary society. This inclusivity fosters a sense of belonging and equal access to justice for all individuals, regardless of their cultural backgrounds. Furthermore, cultural expertise reinforces the idea of social responsibility. It highlights the legal system's commitment to upholding the rights and addressing the unique needs of every individual, irrespective of their cultural identity. This emphasis on social responsibility not only strengthens the legitimacy of the legal system, but also contributes to a more equitable and harmonious society. Cultural expertise can play a pivotal role in bolstering trust in courts and streamlining the judicial process. This, in turn, has the potential to yield significant benefits, including reduced appeals and potential cost savings for taxpayers, all while effectively addressing the chronic issue of judicial backlogs. Importantly, these improvements do not come at the expense of legal guarantees or the integrity of the legal system, provided that cultural expertise is integrated in the legal system as a professional component. One of the key advantages of cultural expertise is its ability to bridge the gap between diverse communities and the legal system. By integrating cultural expertise into legal proceedings, individuals from various backgrounds are more likely to feel that their voices are heard and their unique circumstances are considered. In cases where cultural expertise has been effectively integrated into legal proceedings, the parties, including also the prosecution, are often less likely to appeal a judgment because the transparent and culturally informed process ensures that all relevant evidence has been thoroughly considered, fostering confidence in the fairness and accuracy of the verdict. As a result, the reduction in appeals not only expedites in legal process but also reduces the burden on the judicial system and the involved individuals, ultimately saving both time and financial resources. This translates into potential cost savings for taxpayers, as the legal system becomes more efficient and effective in handling cases. Additionally, the alleviation of judicial backlogs means that cases can be resolved more promptly, contributing to a more responsive and agile legal system. CULTEXP trainers stress cultural expertise as a catalyst for positive change within the legal system. Cultural expertise has the potential of promoting social inclusion and reinforcing the societal values of responsibility and fairness. Moreover, its ripple effects extend to build trust, expedite legal processes, reduce cost, and address backlogs without compromising the fundamental principle of justice. Overall, cultural expertise emerges as a valuable theoretical framework for the tools that enhance the efficiency and integrity of legal system while advancing social cohesion and equality. The factors of the impact of cultural expertise underscore its articulated connection with the fundamental principle of human rights. Courts, in their pursuit of justice, necessitate access to both specialized and first-hand information to thoroughly assess evidence pertaining to fundamental freedoms. While the COI serves as a valuable starting point, it often falls short in providing the depth of detail required for specific cases. Consequently, the appointment of cultural expert becomes imperative, especially at the initial jurisdiction level, to ensure that decisions are well informed and equitable. Cultural expertise carries the potential for substantial social impact, extending also beyond the courtroom. It fosters a greater recognition of social diversity, widens access to justice, fosters confidence in the judicial system, and addresses the persistent issue of case backlogs while steadfastly upholding legal guarantees. Nonetheless, it is of utmost importance to guard against the risk of cultural determinism. It is imperative that culture is not used as a tool for discrimination or as a means to justify criminal acts. Vigilant monitoring of cultural expertise's impact is essential to prevent such misuse and to ensure that it remains a force for justice and inclusivity. An essential factor that amplifies the social impact of cultural expertise is access to professional knowledge. Both judges and experts must possess the necessary capacity and understanding to effectively leverage cultural expertise. This ensures that insights contribute meaningfully to the pursuit of justice, upholding the principles of human rights and safeguarding against any form of cultural bias or prejudice. CULTEXP trainers leverage this knowledge to enhance the competence and ethical awareness of legal professionals and cultural experts, equipping them with the tools to effectively integrate cultural expertise into the legal process while safeguarding human rights and promoting social inclusion. Thank you for your interest in CULTEXP training. For any further questions, please write to culturalexpertise@culturalexpertise.net.